Dun 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 dun. Hello F1 fans, welcome back to the F1 Masters podcast. This is me, Vasco. We have the usual suspects, Harry and David. But today we are recording our 50th episode. And we're a bit on the drunk spectrum, but this is all fine because we love our fans, and that is why we have guests in today's episode. And this is...
Hello F1 fans, this time you're with me, Kalata. And some of our long-term fans might remember me from the episode we did for the USGP in Austin, where I was very happy that Ferrari won. I am not happy right now because we're not winning, but I hope that I'll be happy.
Alright, so guys, today we would have a serious discussion, and that would be GOAT debate. But first, can we discuss a bit the current F1 season? What were your expectations? Are you happy? Are you disappointed? And when it comes to your team, how would you evaluate the performance? David, let's start for the Ferrari fans. I think you may be a bit disappointed, but as it stands now, I think that it has become like a very regular thing for Ferrari fans to be disappointed, so nothing new for you.
I mean, disappointment is, I guess, putting it lightly, honestly. I thought Ferrari were going to be good. They were not, but I mean, it's like we're just 5 races out of 24 in, so there is a long way to go. They've actually been getting better with every race, so I think that pretty soon they will be fighting at the front, so I'm not incredibly concerned.
I saw a very depressing statistic, which was for the first 5 races of the season, Ferrari have scored nearly at half the point that they scored for the first 5 races of 2024. They scored 152 at the beginning of 2024, and now they scored 78, something like this.
Yeah,
but I think a big part of that, not only that the Ferrari car is not the best, even though they are probably the 4th fastest car, because
what?
Well,
No,
the 4th fastest car, because
it's
when
better
you
than the Red Bull.
It's
well,
definitely
but
better than
when you
Red Bull.
when you count Verstappen is faster than both of Ferrari drivers.
Yeah, but
It's Verstappen.
Yes,
He's
that's
fast.
the thing. You cannot really evaluate. If you have to really evaluate, Red Bull's car is slower than Ferrari, but when you put Max Verstappen there, Red Bull are faster. They have more points than Ferrari, and that's the thing. It is pretty hard to get real evaluation of what is going on between Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull when you have Max Verstappen in the car.
That's true.
I think that's the...
okay.
Cheers, guys,
Cheers,
by the way.
cheers,
Cheers.
cheers,
50th episode.
let's go.
This is our...
250 more, 250
Yeah,
more.
our anniversary. But
Well, speaking about the equalness of these cars, though, what about Mercedes and their pace? Because they have racked up the most points out of those 3 teams, but I don't feel like they have some kind of pace advantage.
they don't have the pace advantage, but Kimi Antonelli, again, I mentioned it in the last 2 episodes, I think, but I want to apologize to Kimi Antonelli. I wasn't familiar with his game, and I think Kimi Antonelli is much more impressive than I thought he would be.
Definitely.
And George Russell, I really want to say shout out to George Russell because he stepped up at his place, and right now he's filling the shoes of Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes more than better, and that is why I think Mercedes, they're having not the best car, but they have been pretty good because both Antonelli and Russell manages to fulfill the role of Lewis Hamilton. And also for Lewis Hamilton, I consider him as one of the greatest drivers to ever appear on the grid. But this season, he has been more than, I think, disappointing for the Ferrari team.
I would say that Hamilton right now is more or less in the place at which he started the last season, because this is something that David and I have discussed on like many occasions. Hamilton has been putting up a very consistent score of being the best of the rest, so to speak, because like sure, you have the podium fighters, so to speak. You have like the two McLarens, you have Verstappen, you have Russell, and of course you have like Leclerc, who has been trying to fight for podiums. Last time it was finally successful. His work paid off, and it was actually the first Ferrari podium, which is something which needs to be acknowledged. But Hamilton has always had this issue at the beginning of the seasons. Even when you look back to 2017 or 2018, when the Ferrari was a very good car, he started the season out in a very poor way. And then he gradually built up, and it ended up in a place at which he was not that bad. Even in 2024 we saw that. Remember that he was pretty mid, like I would say shortly above average at the beginning of 2024, and then he had an amazing summer. He was fighting for podiums with Russell. He had a win in Silverstone. He inherited a win in Belgium. He had a pretty solid like mid-season, so to speak.
Yeah, mid-season, the summer like races are where Lewis Hamilton is best. I mean, he is always at the top of his game, and I mean, for now, as you were asking about the performance of my team, I would say that I'm pretty satisfied with how Mercedes are doing, because I didn't expect them to be second in the championship and doing so well. And as Vasco said, I'm impressed by Kimi Antonelli. I think that out of all of the second drivers in the teams, Mercedes, Red Bull, and Ferrari, he has been doing the best so far. Even better than Hamilton.
Definitely in the top four, I think if we have to acknowledge somebody that should be Kimi Antonelli, because at least for me, I didn't expect that from him. But at the same time, I think people at this point are so used to getting like Max Verstappen master classes that they're not appreciating them enough.
Yeah,
that's my take.
That's true. However, gentlemen, a short view back to the past of when we were starting to discuss the idea of this episode. We're not going to be talking about the season overview. No. We're going to be talking about what? The GOATs of F1.
Yeah. Well, we have GOAT debate here, and I think we can start first from very, very quick announcement of what is the team that you support and what is the driver that made you fall in love with F1. Because I'm not sure that all the fans have listened to the first episode, and that is why I think we can quickly recapture it, and after that we can begin our GOAT debate.
So let's start from David.
Okay, so my what was the favorite team and driver got
Favorite
me into the sports?
team all time and favorite driver all time.
Okay, my favorite team all time, Ferrari. I got into Ferrari, I would say quite late since I started watching F1, but yeah, they've been my team for quite a few years now, so I've been sticking with them. But yeah, how I got into the sport, I guess. My favorite driver, Jenson Button, 2009 world champion.
The longest middle name.
Yes.
Indeed.
I remember the first memory I have watching F1 was, I would say, 2009 Monaco, and I remember that car. First of all, the Brawn, just an amazing car, and I always loved Jenson Button because he was like super calm, and I love his driving style, like one of the smoothest driving styles ever. And also I vividly remember the run he did on the pit straight to get to the podium because he parked his car in the wrong spot. I thought that was pretty funny. It was pretty iconic moment, and yeah, he was great that season, and I began supporting him for quite a while, and I would say that's when I got into F1, and as a result I became a fan of McLaren for many, many years, but I sort of gravitated towards Ferrari once Jenson Button retired, so that's about it.
For me, it's kind of difficult to say because I have always... Like, the thing is that I got into F1 definitely later than all of the guys around the table. Like, I started actively watching Formula 1 at the middle of the 2024 season, but I did my homework on everything. I basically watched a lot of races, a lot of compilations. However, as I'm a Ferrari fan, I have always Everybody's a Ferrari fan.
Even if you have the
Even if you're
Mercedes guys.
not a Ferrari fan, one of the guys who are contenders for the gold debate, I think, or at least top 5 of all time, has said it. So
Yes, definitely. Sure. Okay. We'll get to that later. But for me, Ferrari have always been one name ever since I started watching, because my father was like watching F1 at the time, and he was always saying this one name. Schumacher. And I even found a car, like a shell car that my grandfather bought for me. And Michael Schumacher's 2004 Ferrari. Like this amazing Ferrari. And like for me, this is when I started actively watching F1. This was the point at which I was like, which team? Well, I have a Ferrari car at home, so like, yeah, sure. And then I started like liking Ferrari, started talking about Ferrari, starting looking at it. And at the end of the day, I reached the point at which I fell in love and got married to Kimi Raikkonen. I love Kimi Raikkonen. He's my favorite driver.
Harry?
Yeah, so for me it all started around 2010, and I really liked Lewis Hamilton and his way of driving. And I was initially more of a McLaren fan because he was there, but then, you know, when he went to Mercedes 2013, I was like, yeah, this is the team for me, and it has been like that ever since. So my story is pretty straightforward.
For me, it started around 2010 too, and actually I started loving the sport, and I can really say loving, because of my uncle and my father. My father was a fan of Juan Manuel Fangio, and my uncle, he was a real big fan of Schumacher, and he even, like, the only relative that I've had ever to be on a Grand Prix was my uncle in 2010 in Istanbul. But still to this day, one of my dreams is to like watch F1 live, and that is why I have always listened to my uncle. And he was like, okay, even though I am a fan of Schumacher and I really like Ferrari, you have to make your own position. And you know very well who was the dominant force in 2010. And I talked with other people, and I was like invested, like really invested into the idea of Red Bull. And I really started liking, even if I was only 7 years old, I started to really appreciate Red Bull and Sebastian Vettel. And that is why when he won 4 titles in a row, I really liked Sebastian Vettel, and that is why I started liking Red Bull even after that. Even after Sebastian Vettel left Red Bull, I was like, okay, I'll continue to support that team. And then this guy came, and his name, yeah.
Daniel Kvyat.
By the way, Daniel Kvyat, I think he's a bit underrated, but still.
Interesting thing.
His name is Max Verstappen, and I think that till the end of his career, Max Verstappen would be considered as top 3 drivers of all time.
Absolutely, definitely.
Agreed. Yeah.
So, I want to start the discussion of the GOAT debate with a driver that has won less titles than Schumacher, less titles than Lewis Hamilton, that has been only on a one team, but still amazingly talented. His potential is amazing, and that is why I want to put Max Verstappen as my GOAT.
Great. Wait, you think he's better than anyone else?
I think Max Verstappen, talking talent-wise, competition-wise, and even achievements-wise, I think Max Verstappen, at his age, in his team, he's pretty solid contender for the GOAT debate.
I see that, but I don't exactly completely agree with it. Because, okay, Max Verstappen is definitely a top 10 driver for me, like top 5 of all time, absolutely, definitely. But in my personal ranking, he goes like in the top 10, sure. However, you have to remember that Verstappen has been consistent, and he has had a lot of great and amazing results. However, he still had the advantage of having an amazing car. Because when did he win his championships, realistically? He won in 2021, 2022, 24, and 25.
23 and 24.
Yes.
21, 22, 23, 24.
Okay, in 21 he was
In
I would say-
21, I think it was his most impressive championship because throughout the whole of the season, like in the 40% of the season, he had the fastest car.
No.
For the
No,
rest
no,
of the
no,
season,
no, I don't agree. I feel that Red Bull was the second fastest team because Mercedes were just better.
yes, they had like Mercedes, they had the faster car.
No, they didn't.
Mercedes
better
had
than Mercedes?
Mercedes had the faster
They did
car
not.
in like at
It
least
was like 50,
at least
50.
half of the season. Like when you compare, when you watch the races back, Kalata, Brazil, and so on and
Yes,
so
at
forth.
the end, yes, they had the engine upgrade, but before that, Red Bull crushed them. Red Bull crushed them,
Yes, and-
especially
and-
in the European tracks. They dominated.
Yes, and Verstappen, when we had the opportunity, he took it, and that is why he got my arguments for why Verstappen is a GOAT. First of all, he has been, I think you can argue with this, but he has been one of the most entertaining drivers that we have watched all time.
Definitely,
Like,
yeah.
even when he's at the wrong, I think he's putting up a show for everybody. And the end of the 2021 season has been, I think, the best F1 finish of the season ever.
Absolutely.
It's been crazy. Even though some people are contesting like, oh, there has been some really strange decisions from the FIA. At the end of the day, we have Max Verstappen, we have Lewis Hamilton, and we have the decision from the FIA. And Max Verstappen took the advantage of it. And during the rest of the races, he was amazingly fast. He knew that he hasn't got the fastest car, but at the same time he managed to put everything there, and that is why for me the 2021 title has been so impressive.
To be honest, I agree. However, I don't agree with the fact that Verstappen's most impressive victory was 2021. In my opinion, 2024. Look, it was pretty obvious that Verstappen was not driving the fastest car in 2024, especially at the end. Like, it was the McLaren was incredibly quick, incredibly.
It was evident, especially when you know that McLaren won the Constructors' Championship and Verstappen had so much difference compared to his teammate.
Exactly, and that's why I think the 2024 was actually his best season, because not only did he manage to win the championship with, I would say, a pretty large margin over Lando Norris.
Well, he did start with a rocket ship that season,
Yeah,
so he had a points gap.
that's also true. But the thing is that Lando could have easily caught him until the end. But not only did he absolutely obliterate Russell in Qatar, he absolutely dominated the entire grid in Brazil, giving them an absolute masterclass. Harry, as a Lewis Hamilton fan, I know that you're going to be arguing that he's the GOAT. Please give us your opinion.
Yes, please give me your argument.
About my GOAT.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not sure if I should say Lewis Hamilton, because I also, as you guys know, I have another favorite driver.
Nico
who-
Rosberg?
No, who unfortunately passed away before, like, he
Ayrton
managed
Senna.
to. Yeah. I mean, I would actually, stick to the argument that Ayrton Senna is
Yeah.
my GOAT.
I think Ayrton Senna would have been my GOAT, but if he didn't pass away during the San Marino Grand Prix, I think he would have been at least the GOAT for more than 50% of the F1 fans. But
Yeah.
as
Just
it
didn't have
stands-
time, you know.
Yeah, this is the sad part. But if he had the time, it would have been different. But as it stands currently, in my opinion, Max Verstappen, everything that he has shown, all the races that he has been in, I think numbers, even though he's not even 30, numbers are not in his favor, but everything that he has shown so far, I think Max Verstappen deserves to be in the top 3 conversation and even in the goal debate next to Hamilton and Schumacher.
I agree that he's in the GOAT debate. However, you have to remember that Verstappen's records are impressive as they are, have seen like a very close fight with for that. That being Vettel. Because you know that Sebastian Vettel also was driving a very dominant Adrian Newey designed Red Bull, and he was very consistent and very powerful. I know that you love him. I know that he's your personal favorite driver.
Yes, indeed.
However, I would like to throw in another name for you gentlemen to discuss. Fernando Alonso Diaz. Fernando Alonso Diaz is, in my opinion, the GOAT of Formula One, and here is why. He managed to win the championships in a car that was better than all others. Because the Renault in 2005 and 2006 was very good. But not only did he manage to win these championships in his car, but he was amazing. The daring overtake on Schumacher that he did on Suzuka, one of the most iconic moments in Formula One history. Not only that, but in the Ferrari, he was so close to Vettel at the end of 2000. The only thing was Ferrari. But the strategy call that they made, the fact that they were focusing on Webber rather than Vettel, was in what initially caused Alonso to deteriorate. Even now he's fighting for points. Like the Aston Martin, sure, it's awful. It's behind Williams, Alpine, and Haas. But he is still trying to fight for points and doing his best to do everything. And even in the worst of situations, he can pull off amazing results. He did have a podium with McLaren, right? Like with the...
What?
No.
2015-16 or like...
No, like in 2017
No,
and 18.
no,
Didn't he?
No.
Okay,
he had
but
a fourth place, but
yeah, but he okay, still fourth place, fifth place. These are extremely strong place for, as he would say, GP2 engine. And even with Aston Martin, which was the third best car in 2023, because the Mercedes was very good that year, a completely underrated year for Mercedes, and he was still getting so good points. And mind you, even after his 2 championships, he was a runner-up for the championship behind my personal favorite, Kimi Raikkonen. That's why I think that Alonso is the GOAT
No,
of Formula
but
One.
I think you're overestimating him.
What do you
That
mean?
that is the thing that I can say, David.
Okay, so Fernando Alonso, I think, will go down in history as one of the greatest racing drivers ever. He's won F1, he's won Le Mans. I think he'll probably win Indy 500 eventually. But in F1, I mean, is he top 10? Yes. Is he top 5? I would say no.
No.
And it's not just the fact that he has only 2 championships, but he has failed so many times to win more championships.
But the fault, it wasn't his fault though.
Well, it wasn't his fault in 2007 that he lost to a rookie teammate and that he lost
he
to...
didn't lose it. He didn't lose though.
He did lose.
He
They
did
were
lose.
equal. They
Yes,
were
but
equal. They had
Lewis
equal
won
championship.
on countback. He was ahead of him. He had more wins than Fernando. And
But McLaren were prioritizing
Indeed,
him.
no,
Come
but
on.
even
he was a
if
rookie
we-
driver.
if-
Imagine George Russell losing to Kimi Antonelli this season. And George Russell's not... And if George Russell was the reigning world champion.
you would say different thing, and that is why Fernando Alonso, he has been like a highlight name in media. Fernando Alonso has been great for a lot of seasons, but I don't think he has ceiling more than top 10 all time.
If he won 1 championship with Ferrari, maybe, yes. And in 2010, he should have won it, but he choked it.
He
and
didn't?
he needed to get past Vitaly Petrov, and he could not do that.
Yeah,
Yes, but Vitaly
whatever
Petrov
you
was on
talking.
fresher tires. He had every advantage to Alonso when it came to that. Ferrari were thinking about putting
No, but
Alonso in front of Webber.
whatever you were talking about, I think 2010, 2012, Alonso could have won it, but we are in the reality now. 15 years later, and Fernando Alonso lost to Vettel 2 times. And in 2025, Fernando Alonso has only 2 titles with Renault. And
Yes,
that is all that he can put to his name. And that's why I think Fernando Alonso definitely top 10 of all time. Definitely not part of the gold debate, not part
I
of
disagree.
top 10,
I
of
definitely
top 5
disagree.
of all time.
Okay.
So that's why I want to hear Harry and David about this.
Yeah, you go.
yeah, well, I wouldn't say that for me he's in the GOAT debate. I mean, you guys gave some arguments, so yeah, I mean, obviously, I respect what he has done and that he has managed to outperform so many cars during his career. But the thing is that just like his achievements do not convince me enough that he is in the GOAT
Indeed.
debate. That's it.
Okay, I'm just gonna name drive because you say he's the GOAT. I'm gonna name you drivers and please tell me how he is better than them. How is he better than Senna?
Senna drove the best car. He always drove the best car. Even if he was against Prost, even if he was against everybody else, every single time that Senna...
And he beat Prost.
And he did beat Prost,
Multiple
yes.
times.
Yes, but he always drove the best car. Alonso drove the best car 2 times. And when he drove the best car, he won the 2 championships. And even in not the best car, he still was there. He still was 1 Glock away from winning. Like, stupid metaphor, but you know. But I feel like Alonso has always been there. He is always giving his best. And no matter what happens, he is still there. He is fighting for podiums, fighting for chances, fighting for everything. The packages of the cars don't deliver. The packages of the teams don't deliver.
He made these career choices. He ruined the relationship in McLaren and he was forced. He wasn't forced. He left himself because of the environment, because he was incredibly frustrated.
It was obvious that McLaren were supporting Hamilton rather than him. It was obvious
What's
that
the support? But okay, Fernando Alonso in Hungary did something inexcusable.
Every single driver, every single world champion has done inexcusable things. Do you mean to say that Max Verstappen has been the cleanest driver?
No.
Do you mean to say that even Lewis Hamilton hasn't pulled off stupid stunts on Nico Rosberg? Do you mean to tell me that Michael Schumacher hasn't pulled off amazing stunts?
Okay, but Michael Schumacher has 7 world championships.
Yes,
Max
but
Verstappen has 4 and he's 27. I mean, I understand your argument about Fernando Alonso, but I think Fernando Alonso is 6th, 7th, 8th, whatever. I think there are only 3 people that can be considered for the GOAT debate, and these are Michael Schumacher, Lewis Hamilton, and currently Max Verstappen. And at the end of the day, I don't know when Verstappen would retire. He can retire at 30, he can retire at 50.
I think he retired right now. Like,
Even if he retires right now, I think he can be considered as the 3rd best driver of all time.
Yeah,
And the way he drives, the way he is so amazingly talented, I think that we can make the GOAT debate for Max Verstappen much better than Fernando Alonso. That is because Max Verstappen, he's always there. He has always been the guy to beat. And even right now, you know that he's in the 4th best car. And still, Verstappen, pole position, win, everything.
okay, but you and I have already said who our top picks are, and I don't think that there's going to be a loser at this bit. I mean, at the end of the day, the GOAT is going to be our personal interpretation, but we still haven't heard from David and Harry.
Okay, let's hear from them, but I think that they would both agree that Max Verstappen is better contender for the GOAT debate compared to Fernando Alonso. Not that I disrespect Alonso, I just think that Verstappen is amazing.
Okay, when this question comes, I usually think of it in 3 different ways. But if I had to overall pick a GOAT, it would probably be Lewis Hamilton. And it's, I would say, quite obvious reasons. Apart from the fact that he has 7 world championships, I think that his rookie season is the greatest rookie season ever. And that was a year that he could have won the championship and there would be no questions about it. Also, he made Mercedes into what they are today. Super consistent, always, especially in his prime. You knew that going into the weekend, Lewis Hamilton is probably gonna win this race no matter what. And he had another really strong driver alongside him. And even though Nico Rosberg did get the championship, Lewis actually got more wins than Nico during that season. And then after that, he bounced back in 2017. And even though I would say Ferrari had the better car, he was stronger mentally than Sebastian Vettel in 2017 and in 2018. And he was flawless. And even in 2020, his last championship, championship year. He had some, I would say, unlucky moments at times, and yet he still always found the way to win, like when he got the puncture. And in Turkey, I think that is his greatest drive ever. In 2008, he had a very close fight against Felipe Massa, who was arguably in the better car throughout the year. Ferrari did win the constructor that year. 2021, very unlucky, you can say, but I do think Max deserved it in the end. But I think all around, Lewis Hamilton has shown that he is an incredible driver, not just with his pace in his prime. You could say in qualifying, he was unbeatable. And I think he's certainly probably the greatest or second greatest qualifier after Senna. He is also, I would say, out of the only people in contention for the GOAT debate, I think he is by far the cleanest driver. I have never seen Lewis Hamilton make any erratic moves at all. Very intelligent driver, and I think that has even fed to his success. And I think he is much greater than Schumacher for sure. I actually don't even think Schumacher is top 3 of all time, but this is just my opinion. And I would put him the best. I think also Senna, very good choice. And I think someone who is barely talked about nowadays just because of recency bias is Juan Manuel Fangio, who won 5 titles with 4 different teams and absolutely obliterated everyone, even though he was in his late 40s when he was driving. I think he was very special, but Lewis Hamilton is my GOAT.
Okay, so I guess it's my turn now. And as I already said, I'm gonna say that Ayrton Senna is my shout for the GOAT. So first of all, even when he was in a mediocre car, Tolman, he actually almost won the Monaco Grand Prix in the rain. You know, this is like very impressive. Against Alain Prost. Then in Lotus, he started winning because the car was actually better. And then, as Kalata said, he was in the best car. Yeah, he was. He beat Alain Prost, who was the reigning champion, which is very impressive. As we know, this is one of the greatest rivalries in history. And even after he was in the greatest car, 1993 Donington Park, one of the greatest races, like greatest race starts of all time. Impressive. Also, his last season, 1994, out of the 3 races he participated in, the qualifying in the 3 races, he had 3 poles. I think that says enough. I mean, I'm just gonna drop the mic and leave it to you guys.
Senna is, I mean, incredible. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think
without a
he definitely most talented driver, I think, in F1 history. And yeah, he lost his life too early. What I love Senna about him is his resilience and just sheer determination. Like, I think that there was no person more dedicated to being the best than Ayrton Senna. And this is why I always respect him. And granted, he raced in a very tough era of F1. Guys like Alain Prost, Nelson Piquet, Nigel Mansell, all of these. I think this is like a golden age of F1 in terms of drivers, and the competition was very tough. So 3 world championships during that time. And I mean, 1989 disqualified for the dumbest reason in Japan, in my opinion. So easily could have been 4 in a row. So I'm absolutely fine with him being the GOAT.
I agree with Ayrton Senna being so talented, being so great, but at the same time, despite Lewis Hamilton having 7 championships, Schumacher having 7 championships, still, I think that Max Verstappen having the best win of a regular season ever.
What do you mean?
2023 or
2021, when he won, when he wasn't in the best car, when he
was, oh my god, it was equal cars.
No, but when he had the opportunity, he definitely took it. And after that,
I would say Lewis Hamilton also maximized his opportunities in that
no,
year
but
as well.
when you talk about, let's say,
This was an absolutely 50-50 season.
Circuit of the Americas.
What about Circuit of the Americas?
Well, Verstappen had to win that race and he won it. And that is why
He
I
started
think,
from pole position.
but he wasn't in the best car. And that is why...
What? When you say the best
think
car, you are saying
Verstappen-
as if Hamilton had a 2014 Mercedes and was 1 second faster at
No,
every
but
track.
Verstappen, I think, overperformed that car during this time. And for his 4 championships, and even when you go back in time, he was the youngest F1 winner ever. And overall, Max Verstappen, he was just the guy to beat when you compare it to everybody who was even remotely close to him. I don't don't know with how many championships he would end up. But as it stands now, Max Verstappen is my GOAT because he has been performing miracles and he has been so dominant. And everything that he has achieved so far has been so impressive that I just feel like even when you compare it to Senna, when you compare it to Schumacher, when you compare it to Hamilton, Verstappen is the guy who currently stands at the top position. And I think when it comes to the end of his career, it can be in like 3 years, it can be in like 10 years. I think when we go to the end of his career, he would be considered as the GOAT because he's simply the most talented driver. Even though he hasn't got the best car throughout his career, he's just so good.
Not more talented than Senna.
All right.
Also, he's never had a world champion teammate. His teammates have
That's
been
all.
by far the worst out of any world
Yes,
champions.
but that kind of also like overtakes your personal statement about Hamilton because Hamilton has had world champion teammates.
And he beat him twice.
Yeah, that's true.
And he beat
Okay.
Fernando Alonso. And he beat Jensen Button.
And
And he lose against Nico Rosberg. And I think if it was
1 year where he had...
2017, 2019, I think he would have lost at least once to Nico Rosberg.
No.
all right, gentlemen, if I may act as a moderator of this debate, given the fact that I have the most underrated opinion of all of you, I really liked something that Vasco said about Max Verstappen being his personal GOAT. And I think that the statement, my personal GOAT, can really resonate with every single one of us. Because look at this that way. Max Verstappen is Vasco's personal GOAT for his reasons. The point is that none of us can determine the GOAT of F1. If we have this debate until like so long, and we will not be able to determine it. Plus, I really want to go to bed. The thing is, we will never be able to release our points of view. Vasco will always say that he is going to protect Max Verstappen's legacy, as David, Harry, and I will. The thing is that there is no particular reason why these guys will not be our personal goals. This is just my opinion, you know? This is all of us' opinion. And at the end of the day, we can't convince each other. All we can do is just tell you guys, share with you guys what we feel about this. And this is the beauty of this sport.
Yes, this is right. Like, when you compare it statistics-wise, Max Verstappen, he has 4 championships. He doesn't really have 7. And also, he has only been in one team throughout his career. But when I look at him, when I look at the way he drives, when I look at his determination, when I look at him and the way he positions himself and the way he looks at the others, if I have to defend one thing, that is that Verstappen, he can put himself in a position that he can be the guy to beat. And that is why, even if I'm not sure that he can win 7 championships, I'm sure that Verstappen would be considered as one of the drivers that the F1 would ever love and would ever perceive as one of the best ones ever, just because he has been so great. And I cannot put my arguments here as if, oh yeah, he has won 7 championships, but I can say that Max Verstappen, in I think 12 years, he'll be 40. And I think that 12 years from now on, all the achievements that he has got, everything that he has shown, and everything that he would showcase on the F1 grid would be so admirable that indeed he would be considered as the F1 GOAT. That is my argument.
For me, the fact that Alonso is, for me, my personal GOAT, is based on things that really resonate with. The fact that Fernando Alonso probably wasn't in the best teams. he perhaps had more competitive teammates, given that it was like Lewis Hamilton in the team. And probably wasn't in the best teams, yet he still somehow was there. Fernando Alonso always was there. This is something which really inspires me. This is why I think Alonso is the GOAT of Formula One. Because he doesn't really give that much of like the superior vibe to everybody else around him, but he inspires me to be better. He inspires people that are not placed in the equal conditions in everybody else, yet he still strives to fight for what is right for him, for what is his to behold. This is something which really resonates for me. The fact that after all these years of losing race after race after race, he's still here and he's still trying. This is what I am. And I think that the part of our personal goats which resonate with us is something which really resonates with us. And I don't think that a debate can happen here.
I mean, debating is fun.
Indeed.
I will always love this debate because it's obviously there's never a clear answer. Although Vasco said that, because you pretty much said Max Verstappen may become the greatest, but we are judging it based off of this point in time. And I don't think that Max Verstappen is still 100%. I think we can put him there. My GOAT, I mean, as I said, Lewis Hamilton, I think just the most all-around driver, broken every record imaginable, and not really just the records, but compared to other drivers, especially like Schumacher and Verstappen, who, in my opinion, they wheel-to-wheel racing, although they can be very aggressive, they are sometimes over-aggressive, and they resort to
Violence.
not violence, but they make
Unnecessary moves.
unnecessary moves, and they get penalized for it. And I don't like that kind of driving, and I've never seen that kind of driving from Lewis Hamilton. And to have all of that success, even without doing unnecessary things like that, I think really puts him clear in front of everyone else. Just, I really, especially in his prime, I didn't see any flaws in Lewis's game. Even when he lost championships, it wasn't down to his driving, actually. It was down to his reliability. In 2016, and even in 2012, actually, he could have been a championship contender if his McLaren did not break down every other race. But yeah, I think that he's not by far the GOAT, but he is by far the most complete driver in F1 history.
Interesting arguments. I will base my argument on Senna on the fact that he was probably like, he had so much passion for the sport. He was so determined. He was aggressive. He was striving for perfection. We all know this onboard lap of the Monaco qualifying. It was incredible to watch. I mean, also his technique. He was an innovator. The fact that he was like inspiration to so many drivers, even right now. Even some people like from the current generation of young drivers, they have looked up to Senna. And I think this speaks enough about his legacy, about his aura in this sport.
Okay, so guys, I think we can finish the debate here, but the interesting part would be, who do you think is the goal? You can put your suggestions in the comments. We're open to all kinds of suggestions from you. So comment down below. And for now, I can say thank you for listening to us. You've been with me, Kalata, Harry, and David. So
Plus the GOAT will also always remain Nicolas Latifi.
yes, indeed. He gave us one of the best performances of all time so that we can get one of the most mesmerizing finals of an F1 season. So, for now, I can tell you, thank you guys, thank you for being with us, and remember,
If you no longer go for a gap that exists,
You're no longer a racing driver.